Alright, in the previous video we talked about the concept of a file and what exactly is a file in your operating system. Now in this video we're going to talk about how Node.js deals with these files. So we've got these things in our hard drive. How does Node really work with them? So we have our hard drive again, and then on top of this hard drive we're running our operating system. Now if this kind of sounds weird to you, you gotta go ahead and watch my video about the video that's called Node.js Under the Hood. I really talked about how these kind of work. So you have your hardware and then you're running your operating system on top of it. So your operating system is managing the hardware. You also have different processes running. In this case, we have Node.js. So when you run a Node.js application, you're actually opening a new process on your operating system. Now, what happens is that when you're dealing with files using Node, Node.js doesn't have any idea how to go to your hard drive and then find a file and modify the bits there. It doesn't really have any idea how to do it. So it's not going to go directly into your hard drive. So what happens is that Node.js is talking to your operating system. So the way that happens is using some things called system calls. So Node.js using system calls talks to your operating system, and then your operating system goes to the hardware and do some different things. Now, imagine you want to open a file in Node. So you want to open a text file. You're going to call a system call. You're going to tell the operating system that I want to do that. I want to open that file. Now, in this case, you're going to use the open system call. So you're going to run that open call, which is an operating system command, and then your operating system is going to go to the hard drive, find that file, fetch those zeros and ones, and give you the data. And then you could do whatever you want with it. You could maybe open different files using this open system command. Actually, you're not directly calling this open. What you're doing is that you are running a function in Node, and then Node.js using libuv is actually calling this open system call. Okay, it's actually very simple. So you're just talking to the operating system, and operating system here is kind of like a middleman. So it's gonna go ahead, fetch those files that you want, and give you those files. And then maybe you are going to go ahead and then add them together and create a new file containing those three files, and then write that file again onto the hard drive. So you might use another system call. I actually don't remember what is a system call for writing a file, but you could use that system call to write that new file onto your hard drive. So we have different system calls. We also have a rename system call. So you could call this rename and then change the name of a file. You don't have to memorize these system calls, but it's kind of good to know what is happening behind the scenes. So Node.js is using libuv to do these. It's using your libuv to call these system calls and to get those zeros and ones, or to write those zeros and ones onto the hard drive. And there's also this thing inside of libuv called thread pool, which we're not going to get into it right now, but later on in the course we will get into it. So Node.js is using different threads to deal with the files. If you are really doing some heavy calculations on the files, you're actually really exhausting that thread pool, and you might want to come up with different solutions. Actually, you know what, we're going to get into it later, but right now I just want you to be familiar with the terminology, and that's thread pool, which we will get into later on. But that is inside of libuv, and one of the things that it does is handling the files. Alright, that's it about this video. From the next one, we're going to get into more coding and see how we can deal with files in Node practically, and eventually getting to start to create our application. So I'll see you in the next one.